Good morning. Welcome to the home of Unitarian Universalism in Central Washington. My name is Rita Salama, and I serve on the board here, the worship team, the fundraising committee, and a few other things. You might say I'm a church lady, and you'd be right. If you're a visitor this morning, we are so glad you are here. This morning, we welcome every person of goodwill, just as you are. However you get around, whomever you love, whatever body you inhabit, whatever your age or your ethnicity, and whether in person or on Zoom, you are welcome here. We invite everyone to join us for a social hour after the service, both in person or virtually. For the folks on Zoom, you can find your order of service in the chat. And now, will everyone in the sanctuary turn and look at the camera above the exit door and say hello to our friends on Zoom? Good morning. And now, please take a moment to greet those around you today, especially if it's somebody that you don't know. I don't think it's an overstatement to say we're happy to be together. So I have a few announcements. First of all, as you noticed, it's cool in here this Sunday, not like last Sunday. Yeah. And I just want to thank Julie McAllister, Steve Clem, Vern Smith, and Larry Tabiska, and our office administrator, Petra Reidel, for making that happen. What's that? The dude he knows. Oh, and the guy that Vern knows, because that was the essential piece. Yeah. The next Circle Supper is this Saturday. Everyone is invited to this potluck, even if you are new to CUUF. It's a wonderful way to meet new people and get to know others better. Please RSVP to Sandy or Leroy Farmer, and the details are in the printed announcements. There are also some other announcements there too, so check out what's inside your order of service. Every Sunday, we gather here on the homeland of Indigenous people, the Pisquosa. They are also known by the name Wenatchee, and that's spelled with an I on the end instead of the double E's. It was given to the Pisquosa by the Yakima tribe after colonization. The following is from the website exploringwashingtonstate.com and was written by Mary Big Bull Lewis, who lives in the Wenatchee Valley and was the owner of Wenatchee Wear, spelled with an I. Quote, "Growing up in the valley, I realized that true Native American history is not taught in grade schools, which seems odd as the town we live in is named after the Wenatchee. Native American history is difficult to hear or understand as the culture has been romanticized for many years. I've been asked many times if there are any Wenatchee tribal members still alive, which is a difficult question to hear. Yes, we are still alive, and there are still members that live on their homelands. We are part of the land, and the land is part of us. The Pisquosa have been here for thousands of years before there was a written language and an official name given to us," unquote. Here at CUUF, we acknowledge that the land of the Pisquosa was taken from them because the US government broke treaty obligations and carelessly allowed uninvited white colonists to settle here. We stand alongside our Indigenous neighbors as they continue their traditions and seek to have all their rights recognized. We acknowledge our shared responsibility to sustain right relations with each other and the land. For more information about the Indigenous people in this area, not just the Pasquosa, but others, please see the Colville Tribe's website. It's wonderful. The link is in the order of service. And there is also another link in there for the Indigenous Roots and Reparation Foundation, where you can find out about the land back efforts and reparations. During this service, 3 people will be sharing their beliefs and spiritual journeys. They will be telling stories, and when they are done, we will know a little bit more about them and who they are. Part of their stories is about finding CUUF and Unitarian Universalists. So who are we? Our opening words are from the UUA website, Our Faith, Who We Are. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are brave, curious, and compassionate thinkers and doers. We are diverse in faith, ethnicity, history, and spirituality, but aligned in our desire to make a difference for the good. We have a track record of standing on the side of love, justice, and peace. We have radical roots and a history as self-motivated spiritual people. We think for ourselves and recognize that life experience influences our beliefs more than anything. We need not think alike to love alike. We are people of many beliefs and backgrounds. People with a religious background, people with none, people who believe in a God, people who don't, and people who let the mystery be. We are Unitarian Universalists and Buddhist, Christian, Hindu, humanist, Jewish, Muslim, pagan, atheist, and agnostic, believers in God, and more. We are on the forefront of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer inclusion for more than 40 years. We are people of all sexual orientations and gender identities. We seek to welcome you, your whole self, with all your truths and your doubts, your worries and your hopes. Join us on this extraordinary adventure of faith. The second reading I have is from the book, quote, The World According to Mr. Rogers, Important Things to Remember. In the foreword, Fred's wife, Joanne, stated that Fred carried around a copy of a quotation in his wallet that he especially loved. It was a line from a Benedictine nun, Sister Mary Lou Kalnacki. And here's the quote. There isn't anyone you couldn't love once you've heard their story. This is a time in our service when we kindle a sacred flame, a symbol of our faith. If you are joining remotely, please feel free to light your own chalice as well. We are not alone. We join Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists all over the world in lighting our chalice during the worship service. If you are at home and lighting your chalice, you can join me now, or you can join me now in lighting your chalice. And here in the sanctuary, we will speak the lighting words in unison. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share. And now it's time for our Time for All Ages, our story. So if you are young, I don't see anybody very young here. So you're all welcome to just stay where you are and enjoy the story. So this is a story I created based on the forgiveness and ritual practiced by the Bambemba tribe of South Africa that Jack Kornfield describes in The Art of Forgiveness, Loving Kindness, and Peace. One day, Mwansa stole his neighbor's goat. Goats are valuable to the Bambemba people. Goats are food used in ceremonies and as sacrifices, and to pay debts, and to show how wealthy you are. Like someone might boast that they have 30 goats, and somebody else might only have half a dozen. When I was in Africa, I was considered very poor by some people because I was asked how many animals I had. I said I didn't have any. No goats? No goats. No donkeys? No donkeys. No cows or chickens? No cows or chickens. They would shake their heads sadly for me about how poor I was. Because animals are like money in the bank. So stealing a goat, that is a very big deal. And it's a very bad thing that Mwansa did. When it was discovered who stole the goat, Mwansa was found and led to the center of the village. Now, some of you know Mwansa by his American name, Leroy. They had a stool for him to sit on right in the center of the clearing. He sat there all alone. The people in the village all stopped working, the children stopped playing, and they all gathered in a circle around Mwansa. And then justice began. One at a time, members of the tribe started telling about the good things Mwansa had done. His positive attributes, good deeds, strengths, kindnesses, every incident, every experience was recounted in detail. Every villager would look him in the eye and say things like, Mwansa, I remember when I first started coming to this church and you called me and personally invited me to come to a circle supper and even offered me a ride. Does anybody else have something to say?
You know, once I remember, you always do the highway cleanup. You organize it, and it's helped the highway to be very clean, and you do that year after year. I really appreciate that.
Let's see, anybody else? Oh, I think.
Kwanzaa or Leroy. I remember so many times when you would go above and beyond to help people, no matter the inconvenience to yourself or whatever.
Oh, look at all these people that have good things to say about Mwansa.
Mwansa invited me to his covenant group, and so I think that was very special. And so looking forward to this Thursday as well.
Somebody else?
Mwansa Leroy, we thank you so much for being the officiant at our children's wedding. It was a marvelous day, and you were so kind to be there with us.
Mwansa, I really appreciate all the bird pictures you're always taking and posting, so I love them.
Mwansa, I appreciate what a fabulous husband you are to my best friend.
Mwansa, I appreciate the way you get here early and sweep the walks before church starts.
Yeah, Mwansa, I just wanted to thank you for really welcoming me. I felt like a lost sheep, and when I got here, you really made me feel at home.
Well, as you can tell, this could go on. And does in the village for sometimes a couple of days. And of course, the older somebody is, the longer it goes on because there's just more positive things to relate, hopefully, you know. So as the tribe is sharing their memories, they are reminding Mwansa of who he really is. Not the man who stole the goat, but the wonderful person that he is. A person with inherent worth and dignity, someone who is loved. When all the stories about Mwanza ended, there was a big joyous celebration, and Mwanza was welcomed back into the tribe and never stole anything again. Back. Now, these justice circles rarely happen because members of the tribe remember who they really are and that they are loved, and that in turn, they love the members of their tribe. What do we believe? For the longest time, if you ask a Unitarian Universalist what they believe, they would tell you about the 7 principles and maybe include the 6 sources. But the thing about Unitarian Universalism is that it is a living tradition. In fact, the UUA's bylaws require a regular revision process every 15 years. Article 2, that contained the principles and sources, has been revised a number of times over the course of the UUA's history. But the last time there was a major overhaul was in 1987. This year, there has been another major overhaul. It's to help us evolve and address our changing world. A new Article 2 was adopted at the UUA's General Assembly after a 2-year-long process. So we no longer have the 7 principles and 6 sources. It may come as a big surprise to some of you. But instead, we have 6 shared values with a covenant for each. But you will find the language of the 7 principles hasn't been lost, it's woven throughout. At the center of the values is love with a capital L. Verna's going to show the graphic. Love is the power that holds us together. Each of the values includes a covenant of action, something that the 7 principles were lacking. Because, quote, we are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love, unquote. What are these values? Well, this image shows the key word for each of the 6 values, with love at the center. But remember, those are the key words, not the entire value. For example, one that relates to this service is pluralism. Here's the value and the covenant. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. And now I would like you to take a look at the image and think about which one of those keywords most resonates with you. And then turn to the person on each side of you, so you'll be sharing twice, and share what your word is.
You want to participate? Anyone? Ma'am, addressing this conversation. Just unmute if you want to say anything. Happy Cascade graphic.
This may be a very difficult task for many of us, maybe even impossible to just find one that really resonates the most with us. And thank you for sharing with your neighbors. And there's an insert in your order of service for the complete Article 2 with all of the values and the covenants for each one. So now that you know what we, as UUs, believe, let's hear from some members of our congregation about what they personally believe and their spiritual journey. So our first speaker is Mike Mrachek. Mike has lived in the Valley for 73 years and has attended CUUF with Laura, his wife, since 1986. He is a fruit grower and makes wine, very good wine. He likes to hike, ride dirt bikes, fix things, and travel with Laura in their motorhome to places they haven't been before. And now Mike.
Rita gave me 5 minutes to do this, so hang on. My name is really Laura's husband. I get that a lot. So, my journey, I was born in 1951 into the Catholic Church. In my opinion, I was free of original sin, but they didn't think so. I wasn't even there. At the age of 10, I was an altar boy. I was going to be the first American Pope. I attended St. Joseph's up here at the end of Columbine Street for 9 years, and I was Boy of the Year. I was a Catholic until in high school, I discovered girls. And let's see, Laura was also raised in the Catholic Church, so we were married in the Catholic Church. So we were Catholics. We moved back to Wenatchee in 1977 after college and tried to return to the Catholic Church. It just wasn't working for a couple of Earth people and not making a lot of sense to a couple of applied scientists. I know many Catholics that are very fine people and are making a lot of sense, and are making real contributions to the local area and to the world. After a few years, we agreed that there are many things that didn't make sense to us, so we fell away. And we could not accept some of the stuff that organized religion provided. Laura and I came to CUF in 1986 at the invitation of Gene Kupferman, who I call an evangelist. And he doesn't like that too much. We were excited to find a community with similar thoughts and ideas of independent thinking. And the concept of sin has never come up. I truly believe, without a doubt, for sure and for certain, I am not born a sinner. I'm not a sinner now, and I will never be a sinner, and neither are you. We're not bad people. Sins, in my opinion, for most people, are just human mistakes. How can a 6-year-old have sins to confess just to be able to receive communion? Sins, in my opinion, how by baptism and confession could sins be erased and not really be sorry? Original sin was not my fault. I was not even there when Adam took the bite of a forbidden fruit. There must be more to that. Again, not my fault. Original sin is not a concept in Islam or Judaism. Many Christians are told they are sinners from the time they are born. They believe that their sins can only be forgiven by accepting Jesus.
Yeah. I love it. Do it. You're doing fine. Do your thing. Is that, are those ice
Organized religion is just a way to keep people in line, and we're all talking to the same person. I skipped a page. Anyway. When I was an altar boy, anyway, to finish up. I think Laura hit it on me. She does that. Every morning she hides my wallet, my glasses. So to finish up with a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And this came from a Catholic, very Catholic attorney, a good friend of mine. To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world in a better place, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. And that's religion to me. Thanks.
So our next speaker is Stephanie Ko. Stephanie and her husband, Hideo Fujita, moved here in June of 2022 from the Seattle area, or as she refers to it, the dark side. They started attending CUUF almost immediately. Stephanie is an attorney with a focus in the areas of wills, trusts, and probate, although she only works part-time now. Before practicing law, she has been a college instructor, a diplomat, and a chemist. She likes learning things from YouTube, bonding with dogs, and practicing Chinese calligraphy. She says, quote, "I don't do everything everywhere all at once, but I would if I knew how to do that." I recognize that life is short, so I pack as many experiences in one lifetime as possible. So Stephanie.
It is very interesting to know what people believe. My students in the South Pacific believe that I can just bounce off the ground and land on the rooftop like those people in Kung Fu movies. I said, "Don't you?" I was brought up in Hong Kong. My parents were atheists, partly because they were busy enough working full-time and raising a family, and partly because they heard many stories about organized religions and cults. That was why they never encouraged me to go to church. During my childhood, I attended a Christian elementary school and a Catholic high school. These schools were chosen not because of anything else, but their reputation as a top school. In school, religious study was one of the required subjects. My spiritual path was not shaped by 12 years of religious study, but rather by poems of the Tang Dynasty and Confucius teachings that I learned from Chinese literature. My parents gave me guidance that was based on Confucianism and Buddhism. Confucianism was all about the art of human relationships, and Buddhism focuses on life. These two philosophies shaped my character, governed my mind and actions every day. I believe in higher power due to my personal experience. 15 years ago, I attended a client's wedding in Scottsdale, Arizona. I did web check-in for my return flight. I was determined that I need to change my seat from row 10 to row 6, 6C to be exact. There was a computer glitch. I had to do it 3 times. At the gate in the Phoenix airport, I saw this lady with a girl who was in wheelchair and an assistant's dog. I started talking with the lady and found out the dog's name was Baker. She got Baker from Woodinville. Baker, this was the dog that was given to me during my first training meeting with CCI in Woodinville. CCI stands for Canine Companion for Independence. Since then, Baker graduated and became the girl's assistant's dog. The girl has 40+ seizures a day. Baker works 24/7 and sleeps in the girl's room. He alerts the girl's parents whenever she has a seizure, even in the middle of the night. I told the lady that I would help her when we start boarding, since she has a piece of carry-on luggage, a wheelchair, an oxygen tank for the girl, and an assistant's dog. So I asked for her seat assignment. She said 6A and 6B. I couldn't arrange this even if I wanted to. In the entire flight, Baker was at my feet. It was important for me to see Baker at work. He is the girl's first emergency responder. It will take 3 persons to cover his 24/7 job. This was my calling to get involved with training assistance dogs and make a difference. In 2018, a friend invited me to attend a Christian church. During that time, I found out firsthand much more about this religion than I ever knew. At first, I thought church was like any other organization. There are always things that I may not totally agree with, so I just pick what works for me and leave the rest behind. It became quite difficult after I found out how exclusive the religion was. When some of my best friends were being labeled and were not welcomed in church, I started questioning. I don't know how anyone can criticize others based on others' personal choice. I do not know why my friends' freedom of choice is their business. These people in the church certainly think that everything in life is either in black or white. Their way is the only right way. I believe there are more gray areas in life than simply black and white. After moving here, Hideo asked me to search to find a church that I like. I searched online for a Unitarian church. Cascade UU never showed up in my search because it is called fellowship, not a church. At least 10 other churches' name popped up. I visited every single of these websites, and I knew they were not the one that I was looking for. One day, I happened to be talking with Linda Harrington at the Master Gardener's Clinic. She must have thought this woman is desperate. I met her for the first time. In minutes, I told her we just moved here and I was looking for a church. She introduced us to UU. We attended online 3 or 4 times. Then we came in person. We sat at the back right there, next to Rita. She and many of you were so kind to us. This place is so inclusive. What a breath of fresh air. Finding UU was the most important event after moving here. This is the only place that I feel good because my values are aligned with the principles of UU. I didn't feel that I am an outsider and that I better watch what I said so I don't offend anyone. Chinese is my first language. To write the word love, we combine 2 words, the heart and acceptance. I believe when I accept a person in my heart, that's when love begins. I am a UU because this is where I find acceptance and love. I have the freedom to be me.
Thank you, Stephanie. Our next speaker is Jim Szymanski. Jim has been a resident of the Chelan area for the past 24 years, coming from Great Falls, Montana. He is currently employed as an occupational therapist at Lake Chelan Health and volunteers for Chelan EMS and with the Manson Fire Department. He has been attending CUUF for 2 months and is already a member here. Jim has many interests and hobbies: volleyball, home improvements, yard work, gym climbing, paddleboarding, and yoga. Oh, and if he challenges you to a pie baking contest, you should know in advance that he took first place in the Pateros Apple Pie Jamboree 2 years in a row. And now Jim.
Well, those are some hard acts to follow. Gosh. This has been a challenging exercise for me, as the beliefs I once held in childhood and young adulthood, as true and unmalleable, I have either since rejected or they have been metamorphosed into a different form. When I was a child, I was coerced into believing in the existence of Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy. I don't know if parents realize how indoctrinating children to believe that there is an entity from the North Pole who knows if a child has been naughty or nice, and who will bring him presents if he has been a good little boy, is only a setup for the tragedy yet to follow. Learning the lessons of disappointment and grief and coming to terms with the inevitable, that they were only tools intended to frighten me into conforming to the social norms, and believing that if I stay in line, I would be greatly rewarded with toys, eggs, and money. When I finally came to terms with what I once held so close, I felt deceived, and it was a huge letdown. As I entered first grade at St. Teresa's, I think there's a theme of Catholicism here, where instruction in Catholic theology was just as important as learning to read and write, I established a foundation for my religious beliefs. I felt a sense of pride in being Catholic. The history of the church, the saints, the martyrs, the nuns, the priests, and the biblical stories loomed huge in my young life. I recall being given a scapular necklace with the images of Mary and Jesus on a small piece of brown fabric that was purported to be from a monk's robe. The necklace was to be the sinner's free parking, an amulet to life everlasting to the bearer, no matter the severity of the sins committed, whether venial or mortal. I faithfully wore that amulet around my neck for fear of dying and not having made it to confession and ultimate forgiveness. It was practically threadbare by the time I transitioned into public school, where I came to terms with my belief in the power of the amulet. A girl who I had a crush on in the 9th grade thought it was silly and superstitious, and me, being one who didn't want to be made fun of, opted to leave the amulet at home in my cigar box, along with my miraculous Medal of Mary. There, the amulet remains, as well as the miraculous medal, in my mother's garage for perpetuity. I could go on, but I think that what I'm attempting to say is that my beliefs have been shaped from my life experiences, intellectual development, and remaining open to new ideas. As I have recently entered my 6th decade, which is really my 7th decade, I can honestly say that there are few beliefs which I continue to hold true. My most closely held belief is the interconnectedness of all life on earth. I believe that we are all made from the same material that made the stars in the universe. One alteration to one aspect of the world affects us all, for good or for ill. I believe that there is a life force, an energy that is source, where we have come and where we will return. I can't fathom how we cannot continue in some form of energy upon our physical death. I believe each of us has a spirit, an individual personality that is unique to every life that ever was. I believe our spirit will continue through time. And thank you very much. Thank you, Rita.
Well, thank you to Mike and Stephanie and Jim for sharing their beliefs with us. That was really wonderful. This is the time for our offering. Joyfully sharing our gifts and strengths in service to the greater good is one way we create the beloved community. We live these values in abundance. We will now receive the offering. We are blessed by your generosity. May your gifts make a difference in our communities through the ministries of this church. I want to thank everybody that's been involved in this service today. It's been wonderful, a wonderful journey for us. And now the words for our benediction are by Reverend Amanda Pape. Spirit of life and love, help us to be known and to know each other. Let us see the beauty spilling out. Keep us vulnerable and open, speaking our own truth and listening, always listening to the truths of others. And now if you'll join me in saying our chalice extinguishing words, that will be on the screen or in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Now let's form our circle, join hands, and sing our closing song. Don't forget to stay for coffee.